I would like to welcome our next speaker, Chris Eberhardt, with Choosing to Build.
Good afternoon. I tell you what, as an assistant principal, I couldn't be happier to be here because guess what I missed today? Lunch duty. I'm always a happy guy. No, I don't mind lunch duty. I like it best when it's over. I'm an assistant principal in a high school of about 750 students, and I've been in the business for 25 years. And it's always a pleasure to see what kids can do. Caitlin, Matt, and Field, give them a hand, folks. Superstars. We need superstars. I also brought two teachers with me today. George Moore is our media specialist, and Darby Mazur is an English teacher. And my message today is about choosing to build, about seizing moments to make people better. And I could not tell you how effective those two are. If you were to watch them daily, you would understand what my message is about. My message is about seizing little tiny moments to make a difference in people's lives that collectively has a huge impact. And if you could see those two at work, you would know what I mean. So my message today is called Choosing to Build. And I like to start with something my mother sent to me 20 years ago when I was teaching psychology. It's a family circus clip. Little sister says to little brother, yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. I'm going to challenge you today to become fully aware of the power you have. As a high school educator, I am deeply concerned sometimes that I see young people that don't feel as if they can have an impact. And I'm here to tell you, you can. I don't care how old you are, how rich you are, how smart you are, if you're poor, tall, small, short, whatever, you can have an impact. And that's what I want you to walk away with today when I'm done sharing with you, is you really, really can. I watched them tearing a building down, a group of men in a busy town with a heave-ho and a lusty yell. They swung a beam and a sidewall fell. I asked the foreman, are these men skilled? Are they the type of men I would hire if I had to build? The foreman laughed and said, no, indeed. Common labor is all I need. I can easily wreck in a day or two what it has taken builders years to do. So will all of you say to yourselves as you go on your way, which of these roles will you decide to play? Will you be a builder who will work with care, measuring life by rule and square? Or will you be a wrecker who will roam the town, content with the labor of tearing down? I need kids to have courage, and I need you to have courage to choose to build in little tiny ways. And I'm telling you, sometimes when you build people, sometimes when you take a stand, you're going to be standing all alone. But by gumption, we need people to take a stand in simple little ways to protect young people and protect us all from some of the issues that are trying to demean who we are. And that's what I want to talk to you about. My job as an assistant principal, I deal with discipline and attendance. So you can imagine I probably have to make some very interesting phone calls to some parents about some things they don't want to hear me calling about. But I always try and remember that I have to understand that they do come to my school and they do all have this thing we call a story. And you and I, as role models, however old you are being watched. And how I interact with parents and how I interact with kids, I'm being watched all the time. Whether you like it or not, Caitlin, you're a role model on this campus. People will look to you. They're going to look to you, Field. You've done something big, Matt. They're going to watch you. And they're going to look at you and expect you to do things well. And what a blessing. In my community, people expect me to be a top-notch citizen. I'm lucky. And people were watching this little guy too. What grade you in? 7th grade. Like it or not, people watch you. The kindergartners think he's pretty cool. I challenge you. What's your name? Reuben, are you aware that when they watch you, they're watching how you treat other people? Yep. They're watching how hard you study. They're watching the little things because the little things make a big difference. And that's what I challenge you to think about, being a role model, because you do make a difference. And like it or not, once again, people are paying attention to you. And everybody who comes into my office, everybody I have to call on the phone has a story. This is a picture of my brother Mike and I. We have a large family, 6 kids. I was number 5 in the family. I've got the one showing my belly there. And the other one there is my brother Mike. He's 1 year and 2 weeks older than me. He's number 4 in my family. I'm number 5. Yes, we picked on each other. Yes, we called each other names. My family was far from perfect. But by gosh, I like what I am now. And it's because of my family. that I am who I am. But we have to recall, when we visit with people, when we choose to build people in special ways, that everybody has a story. And here's an example I have for you. My brother Mike and I did a lot of things, and we built a lot of things. We dug a lot of holes, climbed a lot of trees, went a lot of places. And we did this. An old Tonka Jeep truck. We destroyed 2 airplanes because we were kind of like that. We took the engine off of one airplane, put it on the front, put an engine on the back, and you can't tell it's an engine because the propellers are broke, because this car is over 35 years old. We would hook up the electrodes to it, we'd stick the fuel in there, and we would start this baby up, we'd put it on the ground, and it would go. And I felt 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Now, the reason I bring up the car is because it's part of my life. And everybody you meet, whether you realize it or not, has a Jeep. They have a story. And if I'm going to be effective dealing with students and parents and spouse and children, I better understand and take a moment longer to sometimes understand their story. But we're so darn busy sometimes we don't take those moments. I know it's going to help me be effective if I do that. Now let me ask you, on September 14th, 2012, would I sell you this car for $1,000? Heck no. But I am also smart enough to know that stories change and life happens. The picture on the top left-hand corner is of my sister Darla, who is the number 6 child in my family. She's 4 years younger than me. And my son Carter, who is in second row over here. He's 20 years old, a junior here at the University of Nebraska. And this is a picture taken in June of 2009. In Carter's junior year, he was diagnosed in December and January with FSGS, which stands for focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. When we found out what it was, we couldn't even pronounce it. It's a kidney disease. He was in stage 4 kidney failure. 6 months later, on this day, right here, Darla gave Carter her left kidney. Things changed for the Eberhardts. Our story changed. This is Carter this summer in Austin, Texas, at his internship. He's doing well. He's a top-notch kid, and I'm so doggone proud of him. But I do know that life will never be the same for him. And everybody has those stories. Some of you in here right now have a parent who is ill and you don't know what to do. Some of you have a relationship that's on the rocks and you don't know what to do. And if I'm going to be effective in my community, dealing with the small city I call a high school, I better take a moment to understand. It doesn't mean I'm going to excuse behaviors. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to give consequences and sanctions. But I want to be effective. And I have to understand that everybody's got a story. Now, if you know my son Carter and my wife Jody, every day at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. she gets an alarm because he has to take his immunosuppressive medications every day for the rest of his life so he doesn't reject the kidney. And those are not a gift. Those come with a fee. Fortunately, my wife and I have excellent insurance. We have good jobs. But you know, that could change. Let's say that somehow we lost our benefits. We had to start paying out of pocket for medical costs. And sadly, folks, there is no cure for FSGS. And Carter could be experiencing multiple transplants in his life. So he knows that. But let's say that I needed to buy him some medications, and they were $1,000. Would I sell you my car? You're doggone right I would. See, people's stories change. We are not in a box that we think the same way forever. Things happen in life. And if we want to be truly effective in whatever capacity we're in, I think considering a person's story is worthwhile. Because everybody's perception, everybody's view of the world is different. No two people look at things in the same way. They all perceive the world slightly different because of their story. Because of where they come from, because of the person they sat by in health class. It was my wife, my sophomore year, 2 weeks before homecoming, the girl I was supposed to go to homecoming with, dumped me, and I was sitting next to my wife, my sophomore year in high school. I didn't know that was going to happen. So stories happen all the time. And everybody's views become different. And ultimately, folks, perception impacts behavior. Do any of you recognize what kind of doll that is? Cabbage Patch doll. Can you remember when people stood in line for these? Because they believed they were cool. See, belief, perception influences behavior. So perception. Perception is essentially interpreting the billions of bits of information that you and I receive every single day. And the only way we get information into our little head is through our senses. Now this little guy is Jeff Roy. If you know anything about Cabbage Patch dolls, you know they were given an assigned name. They have a birth certificate per se. And this is Jeff Roy. He's about 1983 vintage. And he's been around a lot. This is probably an outfit our son Carter wore, because I think the ones that we originally got are no longer in use. But Jeff Roy is, let's say he's a typical kid. He doesn't know how to perceive the world until we tell him how to. And he gets all of his information through his senses. Now, if you and I want to really understand how to be a builder, this is probably one of the most important psychological things you will ever learn, is that perceptions can be influenced. And we are the programmers of information. Like it or not, Reuben, those kids are watching you. Like it or not. They're going to watch you at the good moments, and they're going to watch you at the not so good moments. If that doesn't give you the courage to be the best top-notch 7th grader in your school, I don't know what would. But that's what I want you to be. And we can all become aware of that. And that helps us become effective. At some point in time, Jeff Roy, since he's a little curious human being, we'll pretend, is going to run across an object like this. Now, Reuben, can you tell me what that is?
Football.
It's a football. Now, who said in your life that it's a football?
Probably my parents.
Okay, because someday Reuben did not just wake up and say, Mom and Dad, I figured out what it is. It's a football. No, he didn't. Someone told him how to perceive that. He saw it, he looked at it, probably like Jeff Roy would. He'd feel it with his hand, he'd maybe kick it with his leg. He would definitely put his mouth on it, wouldn't he? He would absolutely do that, because every child on the planet Earth has that as a litmus test. Is it edible? But at some point in time, are you his father?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Paul.
Paul. At some point in time, Paul probably told Reuben, ball. And Reuben probably went, bah. And then the dance of language happened. And how many times do you think, Paul, you had to tell him that this is a ball?
Maybe a couple.
Maybe a couple. And then Grandma did and Grandpa did. And we all agree that we're going to call this. And most of you, if you're not a parent, you will not call this a football at first. You will call it a ball. Because that's how we work as parents. And at some point in time, Reuben's going to say, ball, Dad's going to do a backflip. He's going to be a happy guy. And pretty soon, Dad's going to tell him it's a green football. But here's where the power comes in, folks. And don't you ever forget this, because we can manipulate Jeff Roy. We could all collectively agree to call this object, and all you got to do is get everybody on board, grandma, grandpa, teacher, brother, sister, and we could all agree to call this, let's say, a chair. And if we all agree to call it a chair, and we tell him it's a purple chair, what is Reuben going to think it is? A purple chair. I'm here to tell you that there's a conspiracy against us in an attempt to do that very thing. There's a conspiracy in our culture to manipulate how we see things. And believe me, there are millions of different things that we have to learn how to perceive. Literally millions. A chair, an auditorium, a stage, what kind of wood this is, what kind of shoe to wear, what colors things are, millions of different things. And you can manipulate those perceptions if you so choose. You also have to learn how to perceive the literally millions of others. Because Reuben does not know how to see someone who's from a different country until Dad tells him how to see him. Pretty important job, Dad. Pretty important job what I tell my son Carter about how to perceive people who have different looks, different colored skin. Because that's how we define the world, by how we were taught to define the world. And hate. Hate is a curriculum, folks. It is taught, sometimes unintentionally, but most times it's taught with intent. And if we could teach people to like or dislike things in a certain way, what do you ultimately control? Their behavior. And as a high school principal, what do I want to modify? Behavior. So what am I going to do? Focus on how I can interact with that person. And I'm going to choose to build. Ultimately, the most important perception we develop over time is the one we develop of ourselves. How I look at me. Because that affects how I communicate with people. It affects the kind of messages I send to you about who I am. And I have been, in my life, 46 years now, people have been telling me my whole life how to look at myself. And sometimes those options, they've told me favorable things, and sometimes they're not. And I have to weed through that and develop a self-perception. And as I said, I think there's a conspiracy out there that does not have our best interests in mind. There's a company, I'll tell you about a company, that is intentionally trying to make me look in the mirror and feel insecure. They want me to feel a certain way, so I will buy a certain product. Believe it or not, I actually received 2 emails last week from Bosley Hair Care for Men. Now, I don't know if Carter referred them or someone else, but why would they have my name? Leave my hair alone, or lack thereof. That's what building is. Sometimes allowing a person to look in the mirror and simply think, I'm okay. But I'm worried that there's a conspiracy out there, and we are bombarded with images that are designed to make us feel inferior and insecure about who we are. And I see it playing out every day in school. And we need to take a stand and protect ourselves and other people from some of these images that are very, very distorted, and they are not realistic, and they create unrealistic perceptions of ourselves, and people buy into this. And it becomes the way you define yourselves. And we have a society, and I see it once again every day in school, where kids are feeling no matter what, they're not quite okay. And we need to be the builders who allow a kid to look in the mirror and think, I'm okay. I might not be the best doggone speller, but I'm an okay person. And that, I tell you, is what George and Darby do every single day. And I would like you to get on that bandwagon and be a builder in the little tiny ways to have an impact on our community, however small or however large it is. You can make a difference. Leadership is simple, folks. It's first of all awareness. It is being painfully aware sometimes of the signals we send. It's being painfully aware sometimes that no 2 people perceive the world in exactly the same way. Some of you instantly see the young lady, some of you instantly see the old lady. I have conflicts between students and their parents nearly every single day, and guess what? It's simply because the way mom and dad look at the world is different than the way child looks at the world. One is not more right. It's about understanding and being aware. And our perceptions and prejudices and paradigms can also sometimes keep us from being honest about seeing things as they are. Here's an example. Tiger Woods in the top. Let's say this is him and his family. Revered in the United States. Admired. Great golfer. People paid him money to wear their symbols and drive their cars. Then, gets in an accident. You know what I'm talking about. Then, you learn the rest of the story. People revered him here. How did they feel about him here? Not so good. People pulled their sponsorships. Tell me, what was the difference between Tiger Woods here and Tiger Woods there? Nothing. What was different? Your perception. And part of being aware means that you must be painfully aware of how you too have prejudices and preconceived notions, and explore and understand where those come from, because they are there. And also be aware of this. A man in a small town in Nebraska owns a hardware store, and oftentimes people would bring to his store puppies to sell. And sure enough, one day someone dropped off a box of puppies and the mama dog for him to sell. And so he's tacking up a sign outside of his store that says puppies for sale. And sure enough, it worked. Up comes this little boy, runs up to the man and says, Mister, how much are you going to sell those there puppies for? And the man says, oh, anywhere from $30 to $50. The little boy reaches down in his pocket, pulls out all of his worldly possessions and counts it up in the palm of his hand. He said, I have $2.37. Can I at least look at it? And the man says, sure, come on in. And as they walk in, the man whistles to the back, and out of a kennel in the back comes a mama dog, followed by 5 teeny tiny balls of fur. And when they gathered up at the front of the store, the little boy notices that one puppy is kind of limping, kind of lagging behind. And he immediately says to that man, he says, sir, what's the deal with that puppy? And the man says, oh, the vet examined that puppy and he's always going to be crippled and lame. Something's just wrong with his hip. And when he heard that, the little boy smiled and said, can I buy him? Can I take him home today? And the store owner was kind of shocked. He said, I tell you what, little guy, you can have him. Free of charge. Take him. Instead of being excited, the boy said, I don't want that puppy for nothing. He's just as good as all those other puppies. I'll give you $2.37 today and 50 cents a week until I got him paid for. But he's just as good as all those other puppies. And with that, the man thought, I tell you what, little guy, that puppy's never going to run and jump and play with you like the other puppies. And the little boy stepped back and pulled up his pant leg, exposing his badly crippled leg, supported by a heavy metal brace, and said, see, I don't run so good either, and I know the puppy's going to need someone who understands. Everybody has a story. Nobody has it made. Don't think I have it made. As soon as you think I have it made, you put me on a pedestal of perfection that I'll never fulfill. Let me be imperfect. Let the people in our lives be imperfect. Expect wonderful behaviors and support and encourage, but be aware that nobody has it made and everybody's got a story. And we need to be courageous. Courageous. I'm not asking you to go to the South in the 1960s and register voters. That's what these three men did. They were killed. Watch Mississippi burning. I'm not asking you to go to India and change the policies there. I'm not asking you to sit on a bus, to go to a sit-in. These are very courageous things. I'm not asking you to stand in front of a tank in 1989 in Tiananmen Square. Those are incredibly courageous things. But I am asking you to consider doing this. Applying the just kidding rule. If you're around a situation and someone has to say, I didn't mean it. I'm not serious. It was just a joke. I'm just kidding. If someone has to say that after they said something, they probably shouldn't have said it in the first place. We need to protect people from some of the evil things that are said. When I have students in my office, it always starts with words. My dad used to say in our family of 6 kids, sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt. Folks, they hurt. They really do. And we can take a stand, and that's the courage I'm talking about. And lastly, encourage others. Sometimes people are just afraid to do what they know is right. And I bet you, Paul, Reuben's going to come home someday, and you're going to have to encourage him to do the right thing. He's going to know what he needs to do, but he might be afraid. 90% of the time, 90% of us know exactly what we need to do, but we're afraid to do it. And that's building, encouraging people to do what they need to do. And as far as I'm concerned, the best fictional character at this was Forrest Gump. He was a builder. In the simplest ways. He built Bubba Gump, he built Lieutenant Dan, and he built Jenny. Day in and day out. And you too can do that. I wish you the very best in choosing to build with the gift you have called the present. Thank you.